Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in this mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Player FM, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have a wonderful show lined up for you today. Lindsay Bonilla will be here to celebrate her picture book. It's called The Whole. And later in the show, we'll be taking a listen back to an interview we had with Chris Strassel. We first published her interview back in August of 24, which was way too early because her book is just coming out this month. So sit back and enjoy Lindsay Bonilla and Chris Strassel. Hey, my friends, here's something to think about. What if mistakes weren't something to fear, but something to celebrate? In It's Okay Not to Know by Brenda Doe, young readers meet Bink, a lovable little monster who worries they're not good enough when they struggle or make mistakes. But then, Bink discovers a powerful truth. Every uh-oh is an opportunity. Every question is a chance to grow. And every child deserves to know perfection isn't what makes you special. Curiosity, courage, and self-love do. A must-read for parents, teachers, and anyone who wants to help kids build resilience and confidence. Get your copy of It's Okay Not to Know by Brenda Doe today, because learning begins when we stop fearing the unknown. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by We're Going to the Dinosaur Forest, written by Marie Nichols. Marie Nichols was recently on my Connecticut Book Festival's podcast, and what a delightful woman. One of the things she said really struck home with me. She said, parents nurture with care, siblings are taught to share, but grandparents embrace the dares. We're Going to the Dinosaur Forest is a colorful, fun-filled book where this grandmother dares to embark on a wild journey with her grandson into the dinosaur forest. It's available on Amazon. It's also available on bookshop.org. You and your kids and you and your grandkids are going to love this book. It's We're Going to the Dinosaur Forest, written by Marie Nichols. Hey families, would you like to share a miracle with your kids? At the Wolf Conservation Center, hope was fading. The endangered Mexican wolves dreamed of a pup, but none had come. Until one tiny miracle changed everything. Meet Trumpet, a real-life wolf pup whose incredible birth brought joy, hope, and a lesson in conservation. Trumpet the Miracle Wolf, written by Leocadia George, is a heartwarming true story that will inspire your whole family. Teach your kids the power of hope, love, and protecting endangered species. Get your copy today and join the wild adventure. Join us right now from the great state of Ohio. Our guest is here today to celebrate her very powerful picture book. It's called The Whole. Please welcome to the show, Lindsay Bonilla. Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I know this is going to be a pretty intense conversation. Talk to us, please, about The Whole and what's the story we're going to experience?
Sure. So, well, The Whole is one of those books that I wish I had never had to write. A couple years back now, my friend's son, died in a tragic accident. He was only 7 years old. And when that happened, it just really sent me reeling. And the way that I processed my feelings is through writing. So I started to write this book, just trying to work out all my feelings. Like I was grieving as a parent, thinking about what it's like to, lose a child as I looked at my two kids. I'm grieving for my friend who's lost her son. And then my son had been friends with her son. So I'm grieving for my son and, thinking about all these different levels of grief and trying to imagine what it would be like. He had 3 siblings as well. And so, I just started thinking about what that would be like. And that's kind of where what the whole grew out of that experience.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss. I understand it happened a while ago, but I'm sure it is still painful in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Yeah. I was going to say I can't imagine, but we've had some loss. And when my kids were younger, there was an incredibly courageous young woman in our neighborhood who passed shortly after she graduated from high school, but she had a very long and really heroic battle with bone cancer. And she was able to do amazing things. She visited China, and she, like I said, she graduated from high school. It was a long time ago, but it still hurts. Saying that, I gotta get myself back together here. I'm imagining that there's somebody maybe listening to this and hearing me struggle, talking about something that happened 15, 20 years ago to a neighbor. Why in the world would we want to read a book that is so sad with our little kids? I don't understand it. We want to protect our kids from these things.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think that nobody's going to be shielded, right, from loss and grief and death. And so I think that having those conversations with our kids is so important. And the thing about picture books is they're just a safe place to have those conversations. And I think another reason that it's so important is that it also lets children and parents kind of figure out how much of the conversation they're ready for, and it kind of lets them kind of come in at their own pace, right? So you read the book or any book about loss and grief, and, you can just stop there, and maybe the kid has no questions and they're okay. Let's just put it down. Or maybe they start asking you questions or saying, hey, I've felt like this, or I have a hole from this person that I've lost. And, in the book, I tried to show that some of the children, in the whole, the protagonist has lost his younger brother. And when he goes to school, some kids, they don't see the hole at all. Other kids ignore it, the hole representing his loss. And other kids recognize, hey, I have one too. My grandma, my uncle, so that there's this sense of recognition that it's something that everybody is dealing with in their own way.
Yeah. I think it's important. We've talked a lot here, especially with authors of spooky middle grade books about, these kind of books where kids are fighting monsters and they're kind of scared, but it's a great way for them to deal with some challenges and get ready for challenges the same way our kids practice on the football field or in the ballet studio. It's giving them a chance to imagine how they might be able to deal with certain things. And certainly a book like The Hole, I think, as you said, if a kid is ready for it, it's again, they don't have questions. You enjoy the book, put it away, read the next book. But it can really be the key that allows them to open up this door and imagine what might happen. Because as you said, no one gets out of this alive, and we're going to lose people in our lives.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. How difficult was it for you to write this book?
That's an interesting question. I think I wouldn't say it was difficult because honestly, of all the books that I've written, this one seemed to just sort of pour out of me. I think back to experiences of working on other picture books, And it was like I couldn't quite figure out, I knew where it was starting, but I didn't know where it was ending, or the plot was, murky, and I had to really work with it. This was such a different experience because it was so, writing it from such a deep place and such emotion that honestly, it came out of me in a different way than anything I've ever written. And so it was actually, I think it was my way of processing and trying to figure out my own grief, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, if that makes sense. Most of my other books, I think, have been harder to figure out. I'm kind of fighting with them, and this one was just kept coming.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I'm wondering if you're open to sharing what was the reaction of both your son and your friend when they first read the whole.
Yeah. So it's interesting. My son, I think, is somebody who tries to keep the whole a little bit further away, tries not to think about it, but it'll be interesting to me because sometimes it just pops up, just like everybody talks about grief, you're not expecting it and it will pop up. And, so it was kind of interesting. I had a conversation with my son not that long ago where we were talking about loss, and it was in the context of something that had happened in the news. And he said to me, well, I've had a lot of loss in my life. And I was kind of taken aback because, he hasn't lost a parent or even a grandparent. And so I said, oh, tell me about that. And he said, well, I've lost my great grandma, I've lost my uncle, and I've lost my friend. And for a 10-year-old, I thought, okay, that is a lot of loss. And, it's not my job to compare and say, yeah, but you've never lost, your
Right.
mom or your dad. And so I've learned, through working on this and having these conversations, I've learned a lot as well. So I think he will talk about his grief and his loss when he's ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
For my friend, it was interesting. I got to go and take a copy to my friend. Her name is also Lindsay, like me. And when I gave her the book, she's like, I'm not going to be able to read this right now. And I said, I totally understand. And when she wrote back to me to tell me that she had read it, she said that the page that most resonated with her, which is probably my favorite part in the book, is the page that says, I sit in the silence for what seems like a long time. I don't feel good, but I think I feel better. And that, for me, was a really important part of the book. This idea that maybe you're never going to feel good, but little by little, through different things, through the help of friends, through support, even and remembering your loved one, you may feel better. And so that was like a really beautiful moment for me to hear that line just really connected with her and her family's experience of the loss of their son.
That is a really powerful and comforting line. That I sit in silence. It hurts, but I think I'm feeling better.
Mm.
I love that you wrote that. Do you always write about such heavy topics?
No, I don't. Although I do have 2 books that deal with loss, although the other one didn't start out that way. It just kind of found its way there. That's called The Storyteller. But no, I have a lot of other books that aren't so heavy. Like one of my first books, Polar Bear Island, is about polar bears and penguins, and the note who faced the music is about a half note who doesn't feel whole. So there's a lot of humor in a lot of my books as well. But I do like to write about, I would say, some of the harder topics, again, because for me, it's a way of figuring out my own feelings. And also, I think it's in those like great, great joys and in the great, great sorrows that we most can recognize ourselves and our humanity. And so I do think it helps me to tap into that in my own self. And in just like experiencing being part of what it means to be human and the human family. So I think there's a part of me that gravitates toward that. I always tell my husband, I like to watch movies that either I'm laughing out loud or I'm crying my eyes out because I'm going to live my life differently as a result of having seen it.
Going back to that person who is shocked that we'd write about such a heavy topic, I can see that person sitting down and saying, "Oh, okay, if your kid has lost somebody, yes, great. This is a great way to start that conversation." But I think that a book like The Whole and conversations about these things, I think are even more effective before the loss comes, because now it's, oh, we're talking about this. I mean, we were open, very unlike my childhood where it seemed like nobody ever died. It was just they went somewhere else, like the dogs. They all go to the farm. We were, my grandmother passed away and my dad had passed away when my son was an infant, and my daughter never had a chance to meet either one of them. So there was a hole in the family that we talked about. And it's like, and it was helpful because we did have a fair amount of loss. My kids did experience a fair amount of loss in their lives. And because we had had those conversations beforehand, I think they were able to deal and process their feelings in very healthy ways.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And not only that, maybe they are not experiencing the loss, but they may have a friend or a classmate who is. Mm-hmm. And so a big part of this book also is, this young boy who goes into the hole, which is his grief. He's helped to do that by a friend who, is kind of at the edge of the hole with him as he's looking inside and saying it's deep and it's dark. And his friend says, yeah, it is, but she's there. And that kind of gives him the strength to go in. And he goes in on his own. But when he comes back out of the hole, she's sitting there. And I love the illustrator, Brisita Magro. She just did a beautiful job. It shows him and his friend sitting with their legs kind of dangling into the hole. And she asks him, would you like to tell me about your brother? And he says, yes, I would. And he starts to tell her all the things that he loved about his brother and the things that they used to do together. And so I think it also shows the importance that a friend, a really good friend, can have in helping you as you grieve. And so maybe your child isn't the one who has the loss, but maybe they know someone that they can be there. And if they're not afraid of it, then they can be the person that helps the friend to walk through their grief. And so, imagine if we all had that kind of a listening friend for those difficult times. So I think we have both sides of that. We can experience our own grief, and then we help others through theirs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I read on your website that you are also, in addition to being an author and telling stories through the written word, you are a storyteller. And as somebody who made a living doing educational magic shows around the country for over 35 years, I really respect that, and I love that. It's such a wonderful way to make a living, being in front of kids and telling stories and sharing magic moments. Have you had a chance to tell this story to kids in a live setting?
Not yet. No, I have not. No.
Are you looking forward to it?
That's a great question. I think it's going to be one of those things where I feel like the audience needs to know what they're walking into, because a lot of times, when I'm going to a school or a library, like I've had some invitations to bookstores, like, oh, come for our Saturday morning story time. And, oh, you can read your new book. And I said, well, I'm happy to, but I want to make sure you're aware of what it's about. And so, I think it's going to be a great conversation, but I also feel it's one of those cases where people need to know, and be prepared ahead of time. As, not everybody, as you said, wants to walk into that unprepared, even though I'm, open to definitely wanting to have those conversations. I think it's definitely something too that, it lends itself to a different telling than most of the stories that I would do, are.
Yeah. As a storyteller, what's the thing that you love most about storytelling?
Oh, wow. I just love the connection that it forms. I think there's nothing really like it. And when you're telling a story, there's just this sense of, presence, that you are together with the person. When I was in college, my college professor said that, Lewis Carroll said, stories are love gifts. And that's how I think about stories, as you're giving a gift to the person that's listening, and the listener's giving a gift right back to you. So I just love that sense of connection. Also, I love the power of stories to inspire us and help us to see ourselves in the story. I think they're a powerful force for change, like personal change, and a person recognizing themselves and saying, I don't like the way that direction is going, but that's me, and I can do something different. And when you tell someone, hey, don't do that, then that just makes them want to do it all the more. But when they see themselves in a story and they see the direction that that's taking the character, the same set of choices, then all of a sudden something happens and they can, set themselves a different course. And I think that's one of the other things that I just love about it, is the self-awareness that it can bring.
I'm curious, when you're telling stories in front of a live audience, because we talk about authors come here and they talk about, well, I had no idea the character was going to go and what the character was going to say. It was completely, big surprise. Are you able to kind of riff and improvise when you're telling stories in front of audiences?
Definitely, yeah. I'm very improvisational. And then I do a lot with interactive storytelling, where I do get audience members to come up and play parts in the stories that I'm telling. So sometimes you don't know where they're going to take it or what they're going to say. And I've had some great experiences with that, where, students or children that are so into the character, and they'll say, like, I don't really like where this is going. What if we tried this instead? And it's so neat to see them thinking through the story. And I think that wouldn't happen if they weren't like so engaged in it. So I love that. I love the ability to tell the same story, but every time you tell it, it's different because you're with a different audience. And different players who are playing along with it. So definitely, yeah, that's one of the fun things. And I'll often bring that into my work as a writer. If I'm struggling to figure something out, I might try to find a voice for the character. Or I'll walk around the house like that character, and that will open up a different part of my head to see the story in a different way.
Yeah, it is really, really fun and magical. And I didn't even realize that there are definitely moments when I was on stage and I the muse is with me. Let's see where this goes. But I didn't realize how often it would happen until we had a young woman from Italy came and went on tour with my daughter and I for 3 weeks. And at the end of the tour, she said, Jed, how do you do it? Every show you do is different. I don't understand.
Right.
What is there one thing that a kid asked you during one of your presentations that just was totally unexpected and delighted you or shocked you or made you scratch your head?
Yeah, so once I was telling the Indian folktale, The Monkey and the Crocodile, and there was a young boy who was playing the crocodile. So he had come up, and in this story, if you're not familiar with it, Monkey and the crocodile become friends, but the crocodile decides that she wants to eat the monkey's heart. So it sounds pretty dark, but the crocodile can't say no to his wife, so he's about to take his friend to be eaten, and the monkey finds out about it. Well, I had this young man playing role as the crocodile, and he was just like, stop, I don't like where this is going. And he said, I have a better idea. I said, okay, what is it? He said, I'm going to take the monkey home, and then I'm going to come back and let my wife eat me instead.
Ooh.
And I was completely taken aback, completely shocked, because here's this young boy trying to figure out in his mind how to fix the solution, has realized that he's made a terrible choice, and now has come up with he'll sacrifice himself on behalf of his friend. I mean, I thought we could all go home after that because, he has just shown us how self-giving he is. Mm-hmm. I said, now wait a minute, no one's going to get eaten. Like, I appreciate your kind heart, but no one's getting eaten. And so, I tell the story as it does finish, so he doesn't get eaten. But again, just that level of commitment to figuring out a solution to save his friend in the story, it just blew me away. And I think that, again, just kind of shows the power of stories to help us to think and, process and just all those things.
Hey, can you give us a preview of what might be coming next from your imagination?
Yeah, so I have a book coming out next year from Nancy Paulson Penguin called Family is Always. And it's a celebration of family, for everything from, loads of laundry to do to cheering, for your family members at their graduation to anything you can think of.
Awesome. Well, you have an open invitation to come back and celebrate that book on Reading with Your Kids.
Oh, thank you so much.
Where can we go to find out more about the whole and find out more about you?
Yeah, so I am at lindsaybonilla.com, and all my books are there. And you can also find the whole on the Penguin Random House page as well.
Awesome. We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of The Whole. It's a new picture book from our guest, Lindsay Bonilla. Lindsay, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, my friends. Would you like to bring a little warmth and magic into your home? Let me introduce you to Welsh Mountain Candles, hand-poured on a working Amish farm in Lancaster County. These all-natural, toxin-free candles are made from palm wax with a stunning crystallized glow, rich coconut apricot wax for a creamy finish, and essential oils for a pure, refreshing scent. Whether you're winding down, setting the mood, or just love a great candle, Welsh Mountain Candles are crafted with care and made to be shared. Visit welshmountaincandles.com. Use the promo code JED10 for 10% off your order today. Light up your home with Welsh Mountain Candles, where every candle tells a story. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from the great state of Delaware. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Courageous Clooney. Please welcome to the show, Chris Strassel. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, and excited to talk about my first picture book.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. And I understand that Clooney is in the room with you. How's Clooney doing?
Clooney's fine. He's a little confused because he hears voices, but he doesn't see people, but he's enjoying the air conditioner.
Well, good for him. Good for him. Tell us about Clooney and what makes him so courageous.
Clooney is a 2021 Hurricane Ida rescue that was flown up here from Summit, Mississippi by Wings of Rescue to Brandywine Valley SPCA. He was heartworm positive when I adopted him, and I knew very little about that. And to pay our good fortune, now that he's going through his heartworm treatment, I've learned a lot about it and kind of wrote this picture book to find a way to give back and hopefully prevent more dogs from having to go through this long, arduous, scary treatment for this disease.
So a heartworm, I know I give my Augie, the wonder dog here, his heartworm whenever we're supposed to give it to him. Talk a little bit about what this disease is all about and what it does to dogs.
Well, if you give them the preventative medicine, there's like a 99% chance they're not going to get it. Unfortunately, it's rather expensive. And also, unfortunately, not everybody takes their dogs for regular vet visits. So I got thinking, I'm what I consider a responsible pet owner, and my theory was you just give him the pill every month and it's not a big deal, and you go on from there. And after adopting him, he was 2 when I adopted him, and he had had heartworm when he was surrendered to the shelter, so he had lived with it for a couple months. And I felt that I couldn't be the only one that's a responsible pet owner. It's a little more involved than that. The mosquito bites them, and instantaneously the heartworms start growing. You have to be on antibiotics for a month. Again, treatments are different because it depends on how severe and how long they've had the disease. Basically, the mosquito bites them. It's usually it's a female mosquito. Automatically get them, and they start growing and replicating in the heart. The scary thing was the treatment. It's now treatable. Years ago, it wasn't. It was pretty much a death sentence. Now it's treatment, but you go through antibiotics, but they can't get excited after when you're going through the treatments, because when they start dying off, they're very small, and since they're called heartworms, they end up launching in the heart and the lungs. So when they're dying off, you can't get them excited. You can't increase their respiration. You can't increase their heart rate because it's possibility of a stroke, and you can kill them.
So no zoomies.
I'm sorry?
So no zoomies.
No zoomies, no excited. You have to do everything you can. I mean, luckily, and to be honest with you, once they start the treatment, they don't really feel like doing a whole lot. It's a little scary. I had no clue what I was getting into, but when I saw this face, it was like they told me he's heartworm positive. I'm like, what's that mean? He has to get 2 injections and that's it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's a little more involved than that. So my thought process was, I'm a responsible pet owner. If I'm thinking heartworms aren't that big of a deal, you just give them a pill every month, there's got to be other people out there that don't realize the risk they're putting their animals in by not giving them treatment, by not having regular medical care. And I thought, what a better way than do it if I can explain it to a small child through a picture book, then possibly grown-ups will figure it out.
I think that's a good strategy.
Well, I feel simplicity is the easiest. And then because of Clooney had kind of a rough beginning, he just inspires me because he's very shy and there's no nice way. He's very flaky. Mm-hmm. There's some things that won't bother him and other things will terrorize him. So we work on that. He didn't like go for car rides, and thanks to Starbucks, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that or not, but thanks to Starbucks Pup Cups, now he loves going for car rides because he knows it's always going to end with that. So I wanted to make this simple. I wanted to make it fun so kids would see his gorgeous face and be like, oh, let me see about this dog. But I didn't want to make them afraid of going to the vet. I didn't want them to be afraid of getting needles, even though they're not fun. But the needles for this particular disease are very painful, and I wanted to kind of stress that point, that this isn't, if you see the heartworm commercials on TV, they're like, oh, and the dogs are playing and everything's fine. Well, yeah, kind of, but maybe scare people a little bit and realize the danger by not giving them this pill. So I came up with the concept, and then I decided we're taking half the profits, and I'm going to work with the veterinarian office and shelters. We're taking half the profits to provide for people that need to have the preventative treatment for their pets, whether they can't afford it or their dog's sick. I haven't worked out all the details for that. I'm still working with the local shelters and vets offices to try to see the best way we can make an impact. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It was challenging to write. Most people are like, oh, you're writing a children's book. What's it about? And heartworm usually leaves them with a befuddled expression on their face until I explain to you, like I said, if I make it simple enough for kids to do it, and it's fun, and it's kind of a preventative tale, then maybe I can spread the word that you need to take your dog to the vet. They need to have this. It's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to give them a pill every month than to have them go through this and possibly kill them if you don't do it properly or you don't get them treatment and shorten their lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I wrote the book, I had my vet and vet tech look it over to make sure, did I cover everything? I had elementary school teachers to look at it for different reasons. Are kids going to relate to this? Is it good enough? Because I want it to be fun, because if it's not fun, kids aren't going to want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't do what we're trying to do. And that's just to raise awareness.
Well, I think that's a really noble reason to create a book. Pets have been such a wonderful part of my life, of my family's life. But being a pet owner, it takes a lot of responsibility. And I think that this is one way to kind of have those conversations with kids. Kids love dogs. They love cats. They love having pets in their lives. But I think it's important for them to understand that this is not a toy. It's a living being that needs love and attention, and it takes a lot of work.
Exactly. And responsibility. And I think that's one of the first things, because I always had a dog growing up, but I think that's, looking back on it, I think that's one of the first things. Like, I love them, but I also realized it wasn't just something fun. It was a responsibility. You had to feed them every day. You had to clean up after them. You had to make arrangements if you were going somewhere for long periods of time to take care of them. And I've instilled that. I'm a huge animal lover, so all my friends know in rescue, but they even then were kind of looking like, really, a book about heartworm? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to make it fun, and I'm going to make it so it's a little scary, but there's a plot twist to it. And everything works out in the end, and everybody's fine. So I said, I'm hoping I can get hooked up with a couple drug reps that make heartworm medicine to see if they can help. What do you think is the best way? Maybe we need to change advertisements versus having dogs frolic in the sun and act like give them a pill and everything's going to be all right. Maybe they need to know that there's going to be danger of heartworm and make the heartworm or any of the worms or whatever it is look a little more scary. So people kind of get it and not say, oh, well, they'll be fine or whatever. And then because actually my vet tech told me she had just went to a heartworm symposium. The vet that was giving the lecture, his dog was like Clooney, had heartworm when he was about 2, but he was very infested with it. The dog lived till he was 15, but being a vet, he did an autopsy on him, and he still found dead heartworms in his body. That's how long they can last, and that's why, Clooney couldn't just go running outside. It had to be, you had to walk him. I had to make sure there were no squirrels or cats or things in the yard because I was probably being overzealous on making sure he didn't. But it could just take one thing, breaking off, and it could kill him or give him a stroke. Clooney, don't eat that. So he's a fun pup. He had a really rough start in life. He is spoiled rotten now, as he should be, and he just inspires me every day to accomplish different things and look at things that he's gone through. So I'm hoping maybe this might be a series, because he didn't want to get in the car when I first got him. I had to pick him up, put him in the car. That looking back, probably the first time he was ever in a car was when he was owner surrendered to the shelter. Then he was sent up here. Then he was neutered. Then 1 or 2 trips, and that might have been cool. And then he got his heartworm medicine. Said car rides weren't exactly a positive thing for him. Other loud noises and stuff. So I learned with him, if you just, like with kids, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. And tell him he's a good boy. His whole demeanor changes. Yeah. So again, it's taken the simplicity. And to me, dogs, not just dogs, cats too, animals and kids kind of on the same wavelength. Because most dogs have a mentality of a toddler. If I can make a toddler figure it out, and I can encourage a dog to do something he's terrified of, with sometimes good reason, like kids are terrified of shots or thunderstorms or whatever, if you can let them see it's okay, then you've accomplished it with positive reinforcement. Then that's what I want to do. And in turn, give back.
Well, I love that idea of giving back. I love talking to our kids about being responsible. I think too that it's could be a really great way to start talking about rescuing dogs and helping kids be aware of the fact that there are thousands and thousands of dogs around the world that don't have homes. And that could really use homes.
Actually, it's odd that you say that because Clooney flew up here with Wings of Rescue organization, which takes volunteer pilots and their planes and flies dogs from at-risk shelters, like from the Bahamas to Nova Scotia. Mm-hmm. In Clooney's case, it was Hurricane Ida. It wasn't even a shelter they normally fly from. But because of where the hurricane hit, they had to change it from Louisiana to Mississippi. I was fortunate. He had been in the shelter for 5 months. They chose him to come up here. And as soon as I saw the picture, that was it. He was mine. But Wings of Rescue, Chihuahuas might be more popular in, say, LA than they are in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot of Chihuahuas over here. So they'll fly them. They have a better chance of doing that. So you've expanded that. And that's also, like I started Clooney's Coats, which is I crochet. So I use donated yarn, either when I have leftover, to give back, to promote awareness for dogs for different shelters. I've sent them to California. I've sent them to New Mexico and then in the tri-state area that we live in. So everything connected with this book and with Clooney is always given back to raise awareness, like you said, for shelter dogs. And now it's even more so. Heartworm is more prevalent because you're taking dogs from the South who have mosquitoes 24/7, 365 days a year, to places in Nova Scotia. They might not think about it, but now all of a sudden you're living in Wisconsin or Nova Scotia. You've got a dog from the Bahamas that has heartworm. Mm. That you've probably not been exposed to it and don't have anything to know about it. And trust me, when you start doing internet research, you're going to get the creepy crawlies because it's kind of just that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a risk that the heartworms could affect humans?
No.
Good.
Not to my knowledge, no.
That's good. That's really good. Where did you get the idea that, I understand the love, wanting to give back, but becoming an author of a children's book, that's a little bit out there. That's not something, it's not a challenge that every person is willing to take on. What part of you gave you the kind of daring to take that challenge on?
Well, it wasn't on the bucket list, I can tell you that. Because I had somebody say, well, if the book doesn't do any good, then at least you can say you wrote a children's book. Yeah, but I don't want to just write a children's book. I want to write a successful children's book that makes a difference. I couldn't, to be honest with you, it just came out of nowhere. I was just thinking one day when, we had completed treatment and was just thinking about, I think I'm a responsible pet owner and I think I know what I'm doing. And then I got this and I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on. This was nerve wracking and scared to death and time consuming. And I just felt I couldn't be the only one and I wanted to do something. And I had already started Clooney's Coats. So I was already doing something to give back from him because he just inspires me to give back. Mm-hmm. All my dogs have. My first dog was a therapy dog. My second dog was just a very social dog that I had to take everywhere, and everybody pretty much in a 45-mile radius of me knew who she was. When she passed right before Clooney, it was a lot of people were missing her. Mm-hmm. He inspired me to give back, and I just got thinking, and I kind of like to break down things in simplistic points of view because I just think it's easier for overall if you can get the basics, then you can build on that. And I was like, well, maybe I should do a children's book about heartworm. And my friends are used to me thinking outside the box. So they were like, okay, here she goes. And it just popped in my head, and then things just started rolling along where I came across Brooke, and from actually a pilot that wrote a book about her travels for Wings of Rescue as far as transporting dogs in planes from different areas of the country and how they impacted her and how they've impacted the dogs. And I was just like, well, I could do that about heartworm. And it just kind of took off from there. And then I took every free resource available I could find on how to write a children's book, what you need to know, what you need to do, how you can do it, and all the options, and came across Brooke at Biblio Kid, and it just took off from there. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And no, I can't afford it. And I have no idea how I'm going to pay for it, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'll be honest with you, 15 minutes after I decided after I wrote the book and just had to figure out how to publish, American Express sent me a 0% offer for about what I needed for the time period I needed. And I'm like, okay, this was just meant to be.
I was going to say that it's a message from heaven, or American Express.
It was, like I said, within 15 minutes, they were like, how are you going to pay for it? I don't know, but I'm just going to do it. Why? I don't know. I'm not telling my financial advisor because I'm too close to retirement. He's going to have a heart attack if I tell him what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. And then that came up and I'm like, all right, it was just meant to be. Everything on this book, when I've doubted, like, do I really want it now? I want to do, I just feel I have to be, I'm compelled to do this. I don't know why. The bigger thing. When I took it to the vet's office, they actually had another marketing thing that I wasn't thinking about. She's offering to sell it in their office, which was one of the things. Because, kids sitting in vet's office, they got a book, you can read something. Mm-hmm. They're going to donate for every book they sell. They're going to donate a heartworm preventative to somebody that needs it.
Oh, great.
So it's already starting to, and I had somebody that wanted to give me a rather large donation to help offset the cost to have the book published. And I said, no, why don't you do this? Why don't you take the $500 that you want to give me? Because I just can't do that because this is mine. But why don't you do that and buy $500 worth of books and donate them, and then we'll do a press release. Local business helps local author raise awareness. Mm-hmm. So I said, and then you'll be paying it forward because you're helping me, because you'll help book sales. You can do it as a tax deduction. I'll get the exposure. We'll both get the exposure in the local paper. I told a friend of mine who's going to buy it for her son's kids, and she's in the hometown that I grew up in. So we're going to do a press release, and she's going to do it through her business and buy probably $100 worth of books. So I've already got some sold.
Excellent. Excellent. How does that feel now that the stream is starting to come through?
Well, it's at the illustrators right now, and I wasn't sure on the first two illustrations, but when she got the third one and nailed it, little choked up, proud, excited, still have no idea what I'm doing. When Brooke sent me told me they wanted some of their authors to do your show, she said, check it out. I checked out your show, was very impressed. Like I said, I know very little about podcasts. Have already learned a lot and found some new authors through your social media pages and one or two of your podcasts. So it's just been great. When I sent you the thing and heard back, they're like, you're doing a podcast. Do you know what you're doing? Nope. Do you have a script? Nope. What are you going to do? I don't know. Talking about Clooney in this book, he'll be like, all right, we're out of time. You have to shut up now.
Well, we're not going to ask you to stop speaking. I never ask you to shut up, but we're not going to ask you to stop speaking until you tell us where we can go to find out a little bit more about the book, maybe where to go to.
Well, unfortunately, I'm a little quick on the draw. The book is at the illustrators right now. It's not due to be published till March of 2025.
Okay.
It will be on Amazon. It will be in Barnes & Noble. Yes, Clooney. If you want to find out more about giving back, I do have hashtag Clooney's Coats on Instagram, which is, I take donated yarn. I'm basically cleaning out people's closets. I don't know if you're familiar with any yarn crafters, but most of the time they have half a skein here, half this color there, not enough to throw away, too much to keep. Like any crafter has extra stuff, whether you're a painter or whatever. I clean out people's closets. They give me their extra yarn. I turn them into dog sweaters and send them forward.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Courageous Clooney. It's the debut picture book from our guest, Chris Strassel. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for being with us.
Kindness is quite magical, and respect is magical too. When you travel as much as Jet Li does, the magic comes right through. But he's not alone in his quest, he's got some helpers in his crew. 3 dogs that help him stage his show and bring it right to you. Real Magic Podcast, it's so much fun in many ways. Real Magic Podcast, tune in and you'll be amazed. Lee leads the charge as a magician and a bit of a clown. Calvin is a goofy pit bull who never seems to be down. Augie is a grumpy old beagle, or is he really a basset hound? And Daisy is a border collie wiener dog that knows her way around. Real Magic Podcast, it's so much fun in many ways. Real Magic Podcast, tune in and you'll be amazed. Real Magic Podcast, it's so much fun in many ways. Real Magic Podcast, tune in and you'll be amazed.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and we hope that you enjoyed our theme song of a brand new podcast that's going to be debuting in April. It's called the Real Magic Podcast, P-A-W-E-D Podcast. And we are really excited to bring it to you. We're going to be bringing it to you on April 6th is the proposed launch date, and we are determined to get it out there. You're going to be able to find it wherever you find your favorite podcast. Of course, the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Good Pods, Amazon Music. Like I said, wherever you find your favorite shows, you are going to be able to find the Real Magic Podcast. Great podcast that you and your kids will absolutely love, and we are so happy that we can bring it to you. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. I want to thank all the folks who made this show possible, starting with our guest, Lindsay Bonilla. Please be sure to check out the whole really powerful book that I think will spark lots of really important conversations between you and your kids. Also want to thank Chris Strassel. Please be sure to check out her great book, Courageous Clooney. What a story. We had Chris on. We had the interview. We interviewed her back in August. We launched the show, and then she came back and she said, no, the launch has been pushed back, and asked us if we could remind everybody about the great book. And so we thought, sure, she's a wonderful writer, and we're happy to remind you to check out Courageous Clooney. Also want to encourage you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, @readingwithyourkids on Instagram, and @GentlyMagic on X. We have a fantastic YouTube channel, and we love it. It's youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And we'd love you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can check out our blog. You can visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, and you can also contact us and let us know what you love about the show. Let us know what we could be doing better. And let us know who you would like to hear in a future episode of Reading with Your Kids. Want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. You are amazing. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Oh,